police talking to Toombs just a little while ago about what you can do if you have any information at all. There's no such thing as too little information. Please get hold of the police. Even though the Moti brothers have been found, they seem to be healthy from what we understand. The family also asking for some space. We do have their statement, which we'll bring to you later. The mom and dad saying the children are back, but they're asking for space from the media for the moment. And of course, we will respect that. Let's speak to former police forensic psychologist Gerard Labuschagne joining us. Hello to you, Gerard. Always good to have you on eNCA. Help viewers understand, as a former police forensic psychologist, children have been missing for 3 weeks. They've been found. They're back home safely. What would you, in your previous job, be doing roundabout now?
It depends. I mean, obviously, we've never really had small children taken by these sort of potentially large syndicates, so it's quite a unique situation. I think definitely the family would obviously have the choice whether they want the children to be seen, privately by private psychologists or perhaps by police psychologists who could also probably assist. And I think the first sort of day or two, I think you just want the kids really just to reunite with your parents. We might have lots of things we'd like to do, get information from them, etc. But I think you have to just not forget the human side of it. These kids are not going to want to be interviewed right now. They just want to be with their parents. And that, I think it's fair to say, that could take place in a day or two, where the police could maybe just interview them to find out a bit more information that might help them in the investigation.
Gerard, my team reminding me as well that you predicted over the weekend that the boys will be found. How did you reach that conclusion? In these types of kidnappings, I know people were throwing around rumors that these kids have been murdered, which were very just hurtful, I think, for the family to say such things. And I think, if this was an assassination attempt, you don't take them away to a different place. You could have just done that there and then. So it really just had the hallmarks of a kidnapping. And these kidnappings are about money. The suspects are professional. They want something. When they get it, they release the children. So I don't think it was any wild insight on my part. It's just having worked on these types of cases, this is how these things tend to play out. That the hostage takers are typically released the victims after a period of time. And I'm sure that it would be no surprise to you, Gerard, having looked at the story the way it's developed this morning. 3 weeks exactly to the day, if I heard Vish Naidu correctly earlier. And I suppose the public are going to ask questions, aren't they? Well, if the boys have been released, thankfully healthy and safely as well, that there must have been some kind of communication. We've got to be careful, though, when we discuss this, don't we? We don't want to discuss and almost promote the ransom demands, but surely there must have been some kind of discussion that took place.
Yeah, look, these things, there will always be discussions between the hostage, the kidnappers, and the family. So that's the norm. That is what this is about, and that is how these things get resolved. I do think we definitely, we don't want that information to become public. Even if there was a ransom paid, we don't want that to be made public. We don't want the amount to be made public. And I do think right now, media silence in those regards are the most important aspects. And as I said, just let the family do what they need to do. And let, of course, the police need to conduct their investigations.
So when you take a look, and I ask you to put your former police forensic psychologist hats on here as well. Excuse me, badly timed cough. How do you then analyze these kidnappers? Do we know anything about whether there was a group of them? Was it just two people? We know there was a number of them involved in the actual kidnapping incident. But is there anything that, as a former forensic psychologist, you can read into that this is a much bigger web of kidnapping, that this was just a small part of?
Look, we know that there's an organized gang or gangs of people who are now operating in South Africa. They were probably the ones that were operating previously in Mozambique. They're very organized. They have international ties. They're highly professional, technologically sophisticated, and there'll be different groups involved in this process. The group that take the children, the group that probably look after the children, the person that you're speaking to, and these people probably might not even ever met each other. So these are highly sophisticated groups, and that's pretty much why the police so far have not been able to ever arrest any of these big syndicates. There's been no significant arrests in that regard. And this is typically why, there's no police release of the children by finding out where they are, or any kidnapped victims where they are. And it has to go through a negotiation process. And sadly, these groups obviously feel that the time is right to operate in South Africa. Maybe because of our law enforcement is not as great as it used to be, and perhaps they've bribed the necessary people.
to be able to operate freely in South Africa. And they've been doing that probably since about 2016. Probably the Omar Karim case was the first big one by these types of syndicates.
Gerard, I'm being pushed on time, but I'm sorry, you just raised such a good point now on the police. I just need to ask you to keep it brief if you can. So how ineffective is the SAPS in investigating this and solving crimes like this?
Well, the simple question is, how many people are being caught and convicted for these big high-profile cases? None. How many hostages have been released by police actions? None. So I think I'm not trying to blame them. These are very sophisticated groups, and they just need to come up to speed and do whatever they can, interact with overseas colleagues who are dealing with these issues to try and find solutions. But at this point in time, that's why we say, when this happens, negotiation is the safest way to get your family members back.
I appreciate your time. Always good to speak to you. Gerard Labuschagne joining us here on eNCA, former police forensic psychologist. He's been speaking to us throughout this ordeal over the last 3 weeks. With the breaking news, bottom of your screen, there it is. Moti brothers found in Vuwani. We're told they're healthy and they're safe, but no more details at the moment.